Hi, this is Linda Shea with Drilling Contractor, and welcome to our virtual panel discussion today, sponsored by MTU, a Rolls-Royce solution. The theme for our VPD is improving fuel efficiency and meeting ESG goals in land drilling operations. And before I introduce our panelists, just a few words to set up the framework for our discussion today. We know that rig counts in pretty much every market around the world have fallen off steeply this year. So the environment is very challenging right now, especially for land-based drilling contractors. But at the same time, we know that the companies that want to position themselves for success in the long term can't be sitting back now. They need to be using this time to prepare for the next market recovery. And the specific areas of opportunity that we'd like to focus on today are how we can help drilling contractors to reduce fuel use on their drilling rigs and to look at what kind of impact that can have on their ESG performance. So with that, I'd like to go ahead and introduce our panelists. First, we have Dave Bosco, who is Senior Sales Manager, Oil and Gas for MTU. Dave has been with MTU for more than 3 years, and he's responsible for business development for the company's oil and gas segment. Next, we have Maximilian Trombitas, who is the Global Sales and Marketing Manager for NeoRig. Max has extensive experience in international sales, contract negotiations, and business development in the oil and gas industry. Finally, we have Juan Perez, who serves as Key Account Manager for NeoRig. Juan has held several positions in international sales and business development related to drilling equipment manufacturing. He has a bachelor's in civil engineering and a master's degree in construction management. So gentlemen, thank you for joining us for this virtual panel session today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thanks, Linda.
So I'd like to start off by providing our viewers with some broader context around the technologies that we're going to be talking about today. And Dave, I'd like to start with you. Can you tell us what you're seeing and hearing in terms of the current state of the drilling industry? And what do you see as the key focus areas for both operators and drilling contractors next year?
Thanks, Linda. I appreciate it. So what we're seeing is kind of trends in the industry is, as we all know, as you said initially, business has been, pretty down this year. But folks are definitely optimistic. Through my travels over the past couple of months, I've been out to the Permian Basin as well as other key oil and gas operating areas. And there seems to be a churn to the market. People are saying, look, we're not going to be here forever. We got to use this time to go ahead and be laser focused on key issues that are important to drilling contractors as well as E&Ps and the public as well. And so what we're seeing is, as you said, this focus on ESG, and people are looking at finding out how can they reduce their fuel consumption, how can they improve emissions, and be better neighbors to the people that they operate around. And so what we're seeing is there's an increased reliance on digital technologies. There's new focus on solutions that deliver these ESG targets, and we're also seeing that there's chatter that, come around first half of next year, we're going to start seeing some improvement in the market. And I would say, even though oil prices are still pretty volatile right now, we're slowly seeing that rig count march back up, and that's a positive sign.
Juan, would you like to add to that?
Absolutely. So we come from a market that wasn't the best market already before COVID. Last year was not the best, and COVID brought down the demand of oil to unprecedented levels. We never thought we would be in this situation, and people was scared, was trying to figure out what was gonna happen, how to navigate during these hard times. And also what we were seeing in April and May, it was gloom and gloom. Everything was really negative. Everybody was really scared. And fortunately, the situation has evolved for the better, for the better, not as fast as we would like to, but is getting better. Now it's the price of oil is still very volatile, but we have been over $35 since May. And the rig count, it went to the lowest, 250 rigs, but now we're seeing a recovery. We have a recovery of about 14%. We're at 287 rigs last time I checked. And a very good news that we have is that the demand in the US for oil has been increasing. We are almost close to pre-COVID conditions. We're around 19 million barrels. Pre-COVID, we were around 20.7. And a lot of it is because of the air industry. There's not enough flights, but that's I believe is changing. So I think the worst has passed. And as Dave was mentioning, we see a very clear trend. The main challenges that the oil companies are facing right now is two. One of them is to figure out how to make money on shale oil, because and the only way to do that is via efficiency and with the help of their subcontractors. And the other huge pressure that they're getting is from their investors through ESG, ESG through the ESG. They have to lower emissions. We see a strong trend, especially from the European companies like Repsol, BP, Equinor, ENI, Total, BP. All of them are laser focused, and they have a very clear path, and they know where they want to get and when. They know they want to be zero emissions on 2050. We see that trend becoming stronger, and is going to come here to the US and eventually to every company, all company in the world. So service companies, and in particular drilling and fracking companies, will have to figure out a way to be more efficient and to have lower emissions. And that's where we, as equipment manufacturers and service providers for them, we have to step in and provide, through technology and innovation, a solution for them. And I think we have a product that can help them.
And Max, what are your perspectives on this?
Let me touch a little bit. I agree with both, actually, Dave and Juan, but let me touch a little bit on the international markets. Let's start a little bit in the South and South America. Argentina was probably the biggest market down there, is hit hard not only by COVID, they got bankrupt again. Going up a little bit, Colombia and Ecuador, very, very big problems with COVID, so they had to stop drilling. They slowly come back. Will take a while. They're back on pre-COVID rig count, but there is hope for sure. Quite interesting is the Caribbean. People start to look for geothermal energy, small project, but talking about ESG, that's the way to go. If you go a little bit to the East, Africa, Nigeria was an interesting market for us before pre-COVID. We did a lot of business, and then what I hope is now Libya coming back online, Algeria, we see some stuff happening, but in Africa, the big market is going to be East Africa, with Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, not only on oil and gas, as they're looking for really automated rigs, which makes us happy that somebody's stepping up on that, but also on the geothermal part. Talking about that, we look to Europe, small market, but they have really a strong push for, like Juan said, for geothermal projects, and that's what we're going to see happening over there, and they will have a demand for rigs. Going a little bit further then to Russia, slowed down, but they have appetite for getting technology, so they are now on the brink to really move and bring in automation system. Middle East, always good market, slowed down. What we see right now, they will pick up and come back, but their appetite of new equipment slows down, so even they start to look at used equipment. That's quite interesting for us. And then if you look in the Pacific, Indonesia, Australia, again, Indonesia, there's a potential for geothermal energy. Australia is doing quite well, but nothing special there. I think in a nutshell, quite positive for us. I would say East Africa, Middle East, and Russia are going to pick up sooner than here in the US. But the big big business, or hopefully big business, is going to be in geothermal energy. I mean, everybody's focusing on that, and I think that's the way to go, and that plays a big role in ESG.
So it sounds like there's growing optimism within the drilling industry for recovery next year, which is great news after the difficult conditions that we've seen this year. So hopefully, as the market recovers, drilling contractors will start to look at bringing stacked rigs back out into the market. So what do you see in terms of both challenges and opportunities as the contractors start to undertake that reactivation process? Juan, maybe you can take this one first.
Absolutely. Thanks for the question, Linda. Bringing equipment out of cold stack, I think, is the perfect opportunity to do any upgrades and elevate the specifications of your drilling rig. And the way to go is to do this in a controlled environment. The ideal environment is a yard close to the supply chain, where you can find vendors of equipment, service providers for engines, BFD houses. You can find NDT is fairly easy. You can negotiate in advance the rates that you're going to be charged, and the customer has the possibility to keep track of the cost and the timing, and make sure that the rig goes out on time and avoid any unpleasant surprises. They can do a much better testing before the rig leaves. Everything is way more expensive on the rig sites, on the drilling sites. So I think that's the perfect opportunity to do any upgrades and just make sure that the rig is in a workable condition. Though the work that we're seeing is there's a trend, or everybody is trying to drill longer horizontals. So there's gonna be an increase on the capacity of the rigs, especially on the mast, substructure, drawworks, from the 750,000 pounds that we love here in the US to probably 1,000,000 pounds on the hook load. And on the setback, going from 600,000 pounds, there were some 1500s that had 400,000 pounds, all the way to 800,000 pounds. And the super spec rigs, I think they're the standard now. The rigs that are currently working, they have 3 pumps, they have 7,500 psi. So if you want to stay active and have your rig working, you will have to follow the trend and keep your rig on what it was called before super spec. Having said that, when you add the third pump and you increase the power requirement on the drawworks from a 1,500 horsepower to a 2,000 horsepower, you will need additional power. And normally, what everybody did is just add an additional generator. But there's a much better solution, which is an energy storage system that can bring you more efficiency. It can, you don't need to add the fourth generator, and that's something that I wanted to talk, in detail in this conversation.
Max, would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, let me a little bit take a step back, and I mean, we are now on a lot of cold stacked rigs, and they have to rush them back to the field. There's not a lot of time, short-term contracts, and you have to prove that you still can do the job they were asking you. But the rigs we have right now, they had to cold stack them, and they didn't have any money to spend to buy spare parts. So they cannibalized a lot of the rigs. And a lot of the drilling contractors don't even know if they're working or not working, what they have to put in. So I think that's quite a risk if you bring a rig to the field without knowing if it's working or not. And on the other hand, you have a crew which hasn't worked for maybe a year, or it's not used to the processes, really takes care of themselves. So all that together is a high risk that the job is going to be a disaster, actually. So take the step back, and I think that's what Juan also said. It's bring it to a yard, and our yard is really perfect for that, as we have two 1400-foot test wells, so we can rig it up, test it, and train your crew. Take this extra step, put a little bit money up front, but you will get paid back as you have an operator. You perform as they are looking for in the end, and it will pay back. Hopefully, it gets you more contracts on the long term. It's not only 2-3 wells, and you have to stack it again.
Dave, any thoughts?
Thanks, Linda. So to Max and Juan's point, I mean, it really comes down to, in our experience and opinion, is that if you're going to bring equipment back online, you're going to have to do some work to it, right? Like Max said, you know, they cannibalized a lot of these rigs. You got crews that may be a little rusty, and this is a perfect time to go ahead and implement new technologies. Because if you're going to set the standard as a drilling contractor, you know, competing in the market, you want to have the best equipment that's got the most recent technologies. If you're going to have to retrain crews or get folks updated on how to operate those rigs, the best time to do it is when those rigs are first going out the door. And you know, in any market condition, you want to try and set yourself up for success, where you're going to have the product that the customer needs. You're going to meet their demands when it comes to lowering fuel cost, increasing efficiency, as well as not strangleholding yourself into a situation where, you know, to Juan's point, you upgrade to a super spec rig now. You've got higher, you know, power capacities, and you're adding another generator set that's going to require a lot of maintenance. You're not going to use it very efficiently. It's going to be used in typically a 35-40% load factor. And that's where we see adding the energy storage system is it's a really perfect situation. You can make up that gap in capacity. You can use that system to then optimize the rest of the rig island grid, and customers at that point can start yielding the benefits with the very fast return on investment that we do see with an energy storage system being installed into a drilling rig application. The only other piece of information that I guess I wanted to touch on was, you know, when folks are bringing this equipment back from being cold stacked, they're having to go through it and look at, you know, what's the condition of the engine? Do we need to do oil changes or preventative maintenance that might have been neglected previous to cold stacking that equipment? And that's where, you know, having MTU's service distributor and partner network is going to be a great leverage point for customers to call folks that are very well versed in those assets, come out, do a diagnostic, make sure that those assets are ready to hit the ground running. Because the worst thing you could do is take a rig out on site, to Max's point, and have a failure on location. That's going to give everybody a black eye. And you want to make sure that when you're putting those assets back to work, that they're in their top operating condition. So we see, you know, this kind of time that we're in right now, where folks are bringing rigs back online, is a good chance to go ahead and run through your equipment inventory, figure out a punch list of what needs to be done, and start getting that knocked out before you have drilling jobs line up and have to make a decision. Am I going to go to work today, or am I going to fix my equipment?
So as you all touched on earlier, we see that ESG is becoming increasingly important in the drilling industry. And along with that, we're recognizing that there are also opportunities that are associated with demonstrating your company's leadership in this area. So can you guys talk about more specifically about how drilling contractors can go about improving their performance in ESG, maybe particularly as it relates to fuel efficiency and reducing emissions?
Sure. Thanks, Linda. So, you know, as we brought up before, we really see this opportunity when rigs are coming back online to install new technology. And if you look at MTU's energy storage system, our energy pack, we also refer to that as an ESS, just so everybody's aware of that acronym. We see this as a perfect point to go ahead and install that energy storage system into that rig. It's going to deliver you very high fuel efficiency as well as emissions efficiency, give you the opportunity to go ahead and control the state of operation of those generator sets. And it's typically a 100% plug and play solution that we deliver to a partner. Customers able to connect up their lead terminal cables and communication cables and start realizing the benefits of that ESS pretty immediately. One thing that we do see is, you know, a lot of operators from the E&P side as well as drilling contractors, you know, they don't want this ESG target to be a paper tiger. It's got to have some teeth behind it, and it's got to deliver results. That's the most important piece with any technology. And so we see with MTU and Rolls-Royce Power Systems experience in microgrid technology and energy storage systems, that these are proven technologies that work today in other industrial markets. And so it's not a far-fetched idea bringing in an energy storage system into a drilling rig island grid, where now you're eliminating additional generator capacity. You're able to, at very peak load demand situations like pipe tripping, peak shave that energy at the top of the load profile to reduce the overall generator capacity that's needed to address that load. And then at the bottom of the load profile, when you're going to be doing well logging, or you may be mobilizing or doing some setup and testing, what are you going to turn on a generator set for and burn diesel fuel? It's a perfect opportunity. Let the energy storage system provide 100% clean, silent power that is able to respond in about 1.5 milliseconds and start realizing these fuel efficiency and ESG targets pretty quickly.
Any thoughts, Juan?
Well, I fully agree with Dave. I believe there's gonna be a lot of pressure from the oil companies to the drilling contractors, and especially also the frack companies, because we're the ones that consume more diesel and produce more emissions. Um, and in that line of thought, the oil companies are gonna have some KPIs that the contractors will have to meet to get a contract from them, and that's where I think the battery system, or this battery system, this energy storage system, is gonna be the perfect solution for the contractors.
Let me a little bit add on that. And we looked into, I mean, now coming out of a crisis, it's kind of a good time to reinvent themselves. So if the market is coming back, it's time to change and get something new. So there's not too many ways you can change on a drilling rig. I mean, you get better on rig moves. That's where you're making money. You can get better on diesel. That's where you can make money. And then people, crew, that's the third part, kind of spare parts, if you like to put that in too. So the easy way is for sure diesel, as most of the companies, contractors all around the world have to pay that on their own. So easy step to integrate that. Payback is really interesting, quite quick, and you're doing something for the ESG targets. So going forward, for sure, that's the way to go. And the beauty is we see a lot of inquiries from that, and that's actually why we kind of partnered with MTU, and as we think their system is really front runner technology, and that's also what we as NeoRig always have done on the automation side, highly automated rigs, being a front runner there. So over the last couple of months, even years, I think I can say, Dave, we were talking to each other. It's interesting, and I think there's a lot of potential for everybody on a quick solution, actually, using that system.
I wanted to add to what Max said. Is I think he's right. I mean, we're getting to a point that is really difficult to improve efficiencies on drilling and in rig moves. All the rigs have walking systems, cable management systems. They have a lot of hydraulics to raise roofs, to do all these tasks that we used to do mechanically, they are the most efficient way. So I think that the way to get some savings or be more efficient is through the power end, and the technology that MTU has is perfect to achieve that.
So you guys have talked a lot about the potential that is possible with the new energy storage system. Dave, I know that MTU, since it's a part of Rolls-Royce, has built up a lot of experience in terms of deploying these technologies in other industries. I was wondering if you can talk more specifically about the tangible benefits that we could expect to see in the drilling industry, and maybe some of the challenges that we would have to overcome in order to realize those benefits.
Thank you, Linda. So, great question. The key deliverables that customers want to know is how much fuel am I going to save? What's my emissions reduction? How much is this going to save me in operations and maintenance costs? And what's the return on investment? Those are really the key drivers. And so I'm putting up a slide right now to go ahead and show you kind of before an energy storage system and after an energy storage system. And what we typically see is that there's 3 generator sets that are used, sometimes 4, in land drilling operations. And it's really simple. We replace one of those additional generator sets with an energy storage system. And what this does is it goes ahead and it improves the rig efficiency. It improves performance by having immediate power that can respond in about 1.5 milliseconds, which is immediate. And it stabilizes the grid. We see the reduction in fuel consumption is around 15% or greater, and that just is dependent upon how aggressive we get with the battery penetration, as well as how aggressive that customer is in their operating schedule. With the maintenance cost aspect of it, through the energy storage system actually being able to control the state of operation of those generators, turn them on and off when they're not needed, and intervene in the event that immediate power is required and you don't have to turn another unit on. You're looking at about, low-hanging fruit is 30% reduction in operations and maintenance costs, which is huge. I mean, if one generator set costs you, let's say, $28 an hour, and you've got 3 of them, and you multiply that by 5,000 hours a year, which typical drilling rig operations are around that, that's a big ticket number. So 30% savings of that is pretty huge. With respect to the lower emissions, what we've seen in our modeling and experience with our microgrid installations is typical diesel emissions reductions is about 13%, but that can be greater. And it just comes down to us finding the sweet spot for that generator set inside the load profile, operating that thing in the peak efficiency, and just managing that whole power generation system in a holistic way. So you add all of those kind of 4 categories together, and the big number that we hit is around 2 to 4 years return on investment for an energy storage system, which, I mean, that's big. There's not many technologies that you can go buy off the shelf or have custom built that are going to give you an ROI in 2 to 4 years. So what we would recommend is that if a customer is interested in exploring this technology, we love to take a journey with them, be able to look at what their operation looks like on a daily basis, very, very granular level, analyze where we can go ahead and provide an energy storage system to address a lot of those peak and low load demands, and put a model together that can show them, what this system can realize. And the great thing is that this is, again, 100% plug and play, ready to go solution delivered by MTU, covered by a global warranty. And these systems right now, if we're looking at microgrid installations, we have over 55 of these active globally. And they're in the most extreme environments that you would experience, from jungles to low temperature environments, high temperature, high moisture installations. And it just adds to the credibility of taking this package, putting it into an oil and gas application, and being able to quickly realize results.
Juan, what is NeoRig's perspective on this?
Well, I would like to add that we are focusing on the existing rigs and the benefits on an already existing rig. And I believe that the benefit on a let's say on a rig that you are upgrading and taking back to the field, it's even better than what Dave was saying. I think he falls short on it. Because you if when you add the third pump, you would have to add a 4 generator, and a tier 4 generator is about 600K, $600,000, over 600,000 by the time you assemble it, put the electrical installation, do the rig up, etc. With this battery system, the difference in cost is very small. So the capex is basically an inexistent. The additional capex doesn't exist. You don't have to do any additional capital expenditure. And on the other side, if you are building a new rig, then the difference is astronomical. It's even better, because when you have a new rig, you can design that rig to avoid the shoppers on the BFD the BFD house. Basically, when you're drilling, you brake with the motor of your drawworks, and that creates energy. That energy currently we're sending it to the BFD house, transforming it into heat, and then we're using very powerful air conditioning system to keep the house cool, because electronics work cool. So we are spending a lot of energy to get rid of energy that the rig is producing. So with the energy storage system, you can take all that energy that you're producing, taking it to the battery, and then use it in the future. So that would save you a lot of power during the operation, and also will save you a lot of money and real estate on your BFD house. The BFD house is one of the largest buildings on a drilling rig, and by taking those choppers out, that adds an additional advantage for the drilling contractors. And on the operation, a drilling rig consumes about 220,000 gallons of diesel per year. If that would cost you over $500,000, and this cost is normally covered by the oil companies. So the oil companies are really gonna push to save this money, because that's that's cash flow. That's you have to pay it in a very short term, the diesel. So I think that's a really good opportunity for savings on just fuel. And as Dave mentioned, and he explained it perfectly, the total cost of ownership, it's a fraction of it. It's a fraction when you have the battery system. And also there's an additional product that uh, that that goes very well with the battery system, which is the generators that produce power with gas. And that's a whole other topic. It requires a little more capex, but the potential savings are huge, because of the cost of gas in the US is very low. And also these the generators that MTU offers, they run with poor gas. The gas doesn't have to be a high quality gas. You can even use flare gas, which that helps on the ESG side as well, because you're not burning all this gas. So I think that this technology and this innovation has a real big value, not only for drilling contractors, but also for all companies.
Max, is there anything you would like to add based on your experience in the international market?
Yes, it's quite interesting because I think it was now a lot of contractors will say, yeah, that was now sweet talk from everybody and a lot of savings. The big advantage on that is when we go back to the previous question, cold stack. So when you bring, for example, the rig, we can integrate it at our yard and just show it really. So we are not even willing to just talk and simulate. We're really willing to show it to you, prove it to you if it's required. And as we can trip in and out and really run the rig at our yard, run the pumps, etc. PP. We have engineers there to integrate the systems. So I think that's a big advantage we have. We are not only talking about, we are willing to really prove it in a real situation, a real application actually. And I think that's what I really like to add. Talking about international markets, that's where we see South America, even Middle East, diesel is a big concern. They have to pay for it. It's still not cheap. We're working on several projects right now with the international markets, and I think diesel prices, if the oil price goes up, diesel price goes up, and it pays off even quicker than what hopefully Dave said.
There was one other thing that I'd like to add, Linda, if that's okay. And it gets back to the topic that Juan brought up, which is the requirement for natural gas. You know, that is such a big trend that, you know, if you look at realistically 3 or 4 years ago, people were happy with burning diesel, right? But all of a sudden this trend occurred where you've got tight shale oil production that's producing a huge amount of gas, and there's nowhere to really to store it and bring it to market. These guys are producing huge volumes of gas that they just cannot get to market. And in most cases, it's at a net present zero cost. So one of the great advantages of natural gas is if you're otherwise putting it on your balance sheet as $0, why not consume that? And one slide that I'm going to throw up really quickly is just highlighting kind of some of the things Juan talked about with our natural gas genset. This has been a core business for MTU going back with this specific system that I'm showing since 2004. We deliver about 3,000 of these generator sets since that time. These units are capable, as Juan said, of operating on a wide variety of natural gas qualities. They're built for continuous duty applications and allow customers to achieve TBOs that are in excess of 60 to 80,000 hours, which is realistically unheard of when it comes to a diesel engine. Typically, you're looking at 20 or 30,000 hours. You're going to turn that product, rebuild it, put it back into service, and you look at kind of the costs that you spend over the lifetime of that rig with that generator set installed, it ends up, you know, becoming a very, very expensive cycle. So the best way to address that is get an engine that can handle these higher loads, that can handle much longer time before over intervals, consumes 100% natural gas, and the energy storage system combined with the natural gas generator set, we see in most cases, you're looking at over 80% reduction in emissions. 80%, that's a huge number, huge number. The natural gas consumption, you know, if you've got a net present zero cost on your balance sheet for gas, you know, everything you're spending on diesel at that point goes back into the customer's pocket. And they consider that, I would at least, a dividend at the end of the year that the drilling contractor is then supplying them with. And that's what the goal is, right? We gotta produce oil and gas as cheaply as possible, as efficiently as possible, and bring together these technologies that really realize that for the end customer. So again, I appreciate you bringing up that topic on the gas gensets one. We see this as a real keen opportunity with these rigs coming back online to try out that nat gas option as well.
So from the perspective of a drilling contractor, you know, who's sitting in front of their computer, you know, watching our video and listening to all these potential benefits that are possible, can you talk about what are the practical first steps that they would take in order to actually start doing some of this and start seeing some of the benefits that you guys talked about?
So realistically, the best first steps are we're going to sit down with the drilling contractor, and review a number of different data points with them. I'm throwing up a slide right now to kind of show what our modeling process is. And typically what we'll do is we'll get a data recording from the VFD. That's going to give us some really granular information specific to the time, as well as the total rig power demand, and then what the individual generator sets are doing at that given minute. We then take that information, put it into a plotting graph that we can then visually look at the load profile and identify, okay, you know, the information is normalized. There's not little peaks and valleys that we need to smooth out. And following that, we'll take that information and we'll put that into our modeling tool. In MTU, Rolls-Royce Power Systems, we use two modeling tools. One is Homer Pro. It's readily available on the market. It's a company that MTU also sponsors for a lot of different events. And you can take an electrical load profile, insert it into this program, identify what the number of generator sets you want to use, establish some of the economic constraints, and then from there, it'll go ahead and process this information and generate a simulation result. And that's really our first step with a sanity check. After we look at that and we see that the actual hybrid case makes sense for a customer, we'll then take that and actually run it through our algorithm that utilizes machine learning technology. And it's a program that actually runs on each energy storage system. But we'll run the load profile through that, further quantifying and identifying other areas that we can get deeper battery penetration and provide the customer with the full report. And it's going to do everything from look at, you know, how is that drilling rig equipment going to respond? How is the battery system going to turn off and turn on generator sets? The fuel savings, the operation savings, the emissions reductions. So a customer has a really, really clear picture of what the impact is going to be to their business. And that also helps us with then, you know, after a customer decides, hey, look, this makes sense to me, we can quantify those benefits as the customer uses the package. And it helps them with knowing upfront exactly what to expect. So a second slide that I'm throwing up really quick, Linda, is kind of a sample drilling load profile. And you'll see that we've got setup and testing, drilling operations, pipe tripping, well logging, casing and cementing, and mobilization. And in this slide, you'll actually see where we're showing the number of generator sets that would be running, as well as the number of ESS systems that would be running. And in most cases, we're using one generator set and one ESS. There's only a couple of operations when we're talking about drilling and pipe tripping that second generator is going to come online. But in some of these instances, if we're operating below 500 kilowatts for an extended period of time, that drilling rig is only going to run on battery power. And that's pretty cool. I mean, if you think about it, you know, usually you've got these big diesel engines roaring in the background, a lot of noise. To be able to hear kind of the mud pumps running versus a diesel engine, that's a pretty neat experience. So if customers are kind of interested in seeing what this would look like on their load profile. Typically, it takes us about a week and a half to go through the data, come back with an initial report, and we'll kind of dive into it from there if there's additional information or features that the customer would like to try out. And so this essentially is a process that, you know, we can do virtually, especially with COVID right now. A lot of people aren't having face-to-face appointments, so we can go ahead and exchange this information back and forth, provide the customer with a report, and then from there, you know, have some discussions as to what this installation would look like inside their equipment.
So are there any final thoughts you guys have around the future of fuel efficiency in drilling operations?
Yes, Linda, let me a little bit add on that. It's coming from a technology company and try to push automation into the market, rig automation into the market. We've seen how hard it is. We've built the most automated rigs, onshore rigs in Neo Rig. There's always a lot of interest and operators are really interested, but in the end, they bring out tenders and they try to go around that. So I think ESG, there's a big hype on ESG and operators are pushing that, but I think they have to stand to what they're saying actually. And to do that, maybe we have to define a standard. And I like to play back the ball to IADC on that. Maybe IADC can define together with the operator, contractor, and manufacturer ESG standard, and they can add that to the standard tender processes and contracts, and then it's not only squeeze out and let the contractor pay extra, let the operator pay extra too if they reach a certain level, have, for example, a battery package. Take as example the AECs with the Energy Star SCER systems, and then you just define which level you provide. And so operator, contractor, it's a win-win situation for everybody, and they can reach really the goals. But I think it has to be a lead, taking a lead maybe by ADC or one of the bigger players on that.
I think the operators and the oil companies should help the drilling contractors to update their equipment via better rates or via somehow they need to help the drilling contractors, which are not everybody is hurt with the cash flow is scarce, the money is scarce. So I think the drilling contractors need to get help from the oil companies. And well, when you run the analysis of the advantages that the battery system or the ESS brings to the operation, you have to take into consideration the ESG, the fuel savings, which the all companies are the ones receiving all the benefit, and the OPEX and CAPEX. And that's what the tool that the MTU has does for you as a drilling contractor.
So Max, excellent feedback. You know, I really see this kind of time that we're in right now is crucial for the whole industry. Typically, when these downturns occur, you've got service companies that are being used as a means to an end. Let's face it. They're expected to bear the brunt of all these technology advantages that deliver these results to the E&P contractors. And on one side of the hand, that's fair to the E&Ps because they're asking for a specification and telling the contractor, you want my business, here's what you need to have. But I think that as an industry, we've got to start taking more of a holistic approach to our business. We don't survive and we don't flourish as an industry if everybody is used, as I hate to say a means to an end, but it has to be, you've got to have that participation where everybody's going to benefit. The healthier that the drilling contractors are, the healthier the industry is going to be. And we've got to start getting out of these kind of, we can never avoid these bust and boom cycles, right? That's just part of a cyclical business with commodities. But I think is business people, there's a way to find a little bit of equilibrium where in the event that, business does go down, people have invested in these new technologies to improve efficiency, improve savings for the E&Ps, and the drilling contractors deserve a little bit of recognition during those times when it comes to their service rates, because if you don't have the drilling contractors around today that offer the best technology and the best efficiency, it really doesn't provide them with a lot of bandwidth in the future to invest in new technologies to further improve that performance and that efficiency. So from the MTU side, just wanted to say I appreciate your guys' participation in this. This conversation was great. Linda, you've been a fantastic host, and we really appreciate the IADC's support and giving us this opportunity.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, so much for joining us for this virtual panel discussion. Appreciate all of the insights you've given to our viewers. Hopefully we've given them some food for thought as they begin to plan for the next year and what's hopefully the start of a strong recovery for our industry. So thank you again. I'd also like to thank again our sponsor, MTU, a Rolls-Royce solution, as well as our viewers for tuning in. And we hope to see you at the next Drilling Contractor virtual panel discussion. Thank you.